So, intelligence agencies, right? Their whole job is supposed to be to understand the world. But what happens when the very incentives inside that organization actually reward changing it instead? Well, that's the core problem we're talking about today. The CIA was designed to be a thermometer, but also a thermostat. And that, it turns out, is a massive structural flaw.
You know, this single sentence from Tim Weiner's Legacy of Ashes just perfectly captures the whole dilemma. It's not just a clever turn of phrase, it's really a diagnosis of an institutional crisis that's been playing out for decades.
For this explainer, we're diving into this incredible book. It won a Pulitzer Prize, and it's built on a foundation of over 50,000 documents, a lot of them from the CIA's own archives. It really gives us a map to understand how the agency's design has shaped its behavior and, well, global events for more than 60 years.
Okay, so where did this all start? The problem was baked in from the very beginning. The CIA was created with two conflicting missions living under the very same roof. And here you can see that fundamental tension laid bare. On one side, you have intelligence analysis. Its goal is to understand the world, and it rewards things like patience, skepticism, and, of course, accuracy. But then you have covert action. Its goal is to change the world, and it rewards completely different things: speed, secrecy, and results you can measure. These two missions aren't just different, they're in direct conflict with each other. Probably the best way to think about this is with the metaphor of a thermometer that's also a thermostat. Right? A thermometer's only job is to give you an accurate reading of the temperature. A thermostat's job is to actually change it. When you have one institution trying to do both, its ability to just measure the world gets totally distorted by its desire to act on it. Now, you might think these two sides would find some sort of balance, but that's not what happened. The internal incentives inevitably started to tilt, and they tilted heavily in one direction, favoring action over analysis. Think about it. The allure of getting quick, visible results for presidents, that's a powerful drug. Pretty soon, covert operations grew to be bigger than the rest of the agency combined. All the money, the power, the prestige, it all flowed to the doing side. The agency became much, much more of a thermostat than a thermometer.
This quote from a Cold War station chief just lays the painful truth bare. The CIA's public image was this all-powerful, all-knowing force. But its internal record? It showed a repeating pattern of major intelligence failures.
And this timeline really shows that pattern in action. During the Cold War, covert ops were often just blind stabs in the dark, and the failures were hidden. By the 70s, analysts had learned a tough lesson. It was career suicide to tell presidents something they didn't want to believe. In the 80s, the agency completely missed the imminent collapse of the Soviet Union. And then, of course, in 2003, it delivered deeply flawed intelligence on Iraqi WMDs. See, these aren't just isolated mistakes. They're the predictable outcomes of a system where the desire to act constantly undermines the ability to see clearly. So that brings up a really critical question. If the institutional design has this deep a flaw, why on earth does this pattern just keep repeating for decades?
Well, the answer is that the system is incredibly good at defending itself. So how does it do it? Well, first, secrecy. Failures, blunders, you name it, they get buried in top-secret archives, which shields the institution from any normal kind of accountability. Second, there's political demand. Presidents facing threats often want tools for action, not just long reports. That just reinforces the agency's operational side. And finally, you have perception management. Small partial successes get amplified, while the huge systemic failures get downplayed or just stay classified forever.
And all of this brings us to the real crisis in perception. And it's not just about the CIA. It's about how we understand history and power itself. The common narrative, the way we usually talk about this, is to frame these failures as individual mistakes or, bad actors. The thinking is, if we just found the right people, the problem would be solved. But a systems-level view reveals something much deeper. The problem isn't the people, it's the flawed institutional design. The problem is the conflict between measuring the world and trying to change it at the same time. So that legacy of ashes isn't just about mistakes made in the past. It's a structural flaw that's still active, right now. When you look at it through this system's lens, the history of the CIA becomes this fascinating and, frankly, troubling case study in how an institution built to understand the world can become an instrument for blindly reshaping it. And what's really chilling is this quote. It's from an essay in the CIA's own internal journal back in 1998. It shows this was understood from within. It was a prophecy that tragically came true. And it leaves us with one final, really provocative question. Can an organization built to be both a thermometer and a thermostat ever truly escape its own distorted vision?
Crisis in Perception is all about examining how systems shape what we believe. If you found this analysis valuable, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and maybe comment with what you'd like us to explore next. Thanks so much for watching.